Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located. And welcome to DC Born Rob Erasing Borders. This is my latest update on the judge's order in Colombia to require a PCR test and a 14-day quarantine. So the fight is on. The fight is on. I just had this story pop up about 2 hours ago. So instead of recording and editing it, I just figured I'd pop right on and go live for you, because there's some people I know for a fact, 2 people are looking to book for the next couple of days and for the next few weeks for sure. So anyway, I wanted to pass on as much information as I can. Again, this is in regards to the judge's order to require a PCR test and a 14-day quarantine to enter Colombia from outside, from flights, of course. All land and water borders are still closed. But here's the chronology of what's been going on, just to catch you up if you're not familiar with it. They were closed from March something. They closed the entire country down. You could not enter Colombia via air. On September 21st, they reopened, but they required that you take a PCR test within 96 hours of boarding or landing on whichever side. It was always ambiguous there. Then on November 4th, they had, I don't know if it's called an order, but what's it called? Whatever it's called, they wrote it out and said that, and this is November 4th, that they are going to require, that they're going to stop requiring the PCR test. So it lasted a good September, October, November, almost a month and a half, 2 months. And then November 26th, the judge's order to require a PCR test and a 14-day quarantine. Well, the judge orders, let me get that straight. On November 26th, the judge orders to reinstate the PCR requirement, as well as adding a 14-day quarantine to it. After that, Medellin, which is the Department of Health, said that they're not going to follow the judge's order. So if you were going to fly down, and I've been trying to give as many updates as possible, and do me a favor, look at the updates that I'm putting out, because obviously last week is going to be obsolete, possibly obsolete now, as well as the prior week and 2 weeks prior and 3 weeks prior. So look at the date. I'm putting dates on all the thumbnails so that you know that this is the latest. So just look at what today's date is, and then look at this. So Medellin says, we're not going to follow the judge's order. The president says, yeah, we can't do it, and asked for clarification. The judge came back a few days later and says, you heard what I said. I said, do it. I said, require a PCR test. And they appealed or tried to get it annulled. And they had LATAM and maybe Avianca or another airline try to fight it and jump on the bandwagon, as well as tourism companies, and say, okay, we cannot do it. And here's the reasons for it. They were scrambling to find all these reasons. That they don't need PCR requirements anymore. So that was it. The judge clarified, said, do it. And if you don't, you may be held in contempt. And they're looking, when they say held in contempt, I forget his name, Ruiz, I think it is, that he personally will be held in contempt for not doing it. He was a director of health, or director of Medellin. So with that said, I'm going to read this story. This just came out again like 6 something today. So this is fresh. Let me get myself together. So the judge says, hey, Nicholas, by the way, I see you there. The PCR tests are being misused. Okay, 1984, COVID 1984. I don't know what that means, but thanks for joining me, Nicholas. So the title, this is from El Tiempo. And if you want to read along, I'm just going to read this, because obviously I know you guys can read, you can find it yourself, but if you're in front of your computer, it's easier just to listen to me read through it. So I'll get through it as best I can. This story, again, is with El Tiempo, and it is entitled, Judge Insists on Requiring PCR Tests from Travelers but Eliminates Quarantine. In addition, the court said that those who arrive without proof will have to be isolated. So if you're booking a flight in the near future, it's kind of important for you. Okay, so again, this is today as of 6:13 p.m. Upon hearing concerns that the Attorney General's office had formulated, and in which he had asked him to modulate the sentence in which he ordered that travelers arriving in Colombia be required to test negative for coronavirus, the 11th Administrative Court of Orality of the Circuit de Bogota made some adjustments to his decision. Okay, made some adjustments. What did he do? In his ruling, the judge reiterated his order to require travelers arriving in Colombia to carry out a PCR test. In other words, again, do it. Colombia to carry out a PCR test with a negative results for coronavirus prior to boarding. Thus, the judge said this test should be required as an entry requirement by the immigration authorities for travelers who enter by air. Thus, the judge confirmed his decision to annul a resolution of the Ministry of Health in which he eliminated the requirement of his test, for which another resolution 1627 of 2020, with which the portfolio had said that the proof was necessary. So they started off by saying it was necessary to do a PCR test, and then he revoked on his own, I guess, what was his own resolution. So, however, the judge made an addition to his ruling, noting that for travelers who do not have a coronavirus test, they should be required to isolate themselves preventatively and then perform the test. In addition, they must follow the indicated measures until it is determined that they do not have the virus through a test and with the epidemiological risk assessment. So with that, to me, it's saying that, okay, the judge is saying you need to have a PCR test. It is required, but if you don't have it, then you need to isolate yourself in Colombia until you can take a test at such future date, which means this story's not over. He's going to have to clarify because it's not in this story. How long, how they're going to track you, all that good stuff. And this is what everybody more so was worried about. Not so much probably the PCR test, but having a quarantine. So say the date online. Date? What's that, Chris? Kush. You there, brother? I'm so happy in Medellin right now. I just came back from Comuna 13. Good deal. How'd you like that? Best trip ever. Folks just test and come. No big deal. Check with the story. You're already there, so you're straight. This is for people who are coming after this. And this is even if it's, who's to say? It's still fighting back and forth. You're there, so, and I know a few other people, Victor, you guys are already down or on your way down, so it's not that big a deal for you. But those who are going in the next few weeks need to hear this story. So let me finish this one up. This measure, said the judge, should be regulated by the Ministry of Health and Social Protection only for those cases in which it is difficult for travelers to take a PCR test. So they're saying, okay, if they cannot take a PCR, they're leaving this on the Ministry of Health, which is mid-salute, or obtain the results in a stipulated times for entering the country, he assured. Another modification that he made to his first decision was to abolish the order he had given requiring those who arrive from abroad to keep isolation for 14 days in their place of residence or accommodation. So he was asking for both PCR requirement as well as 14-day quarantine. He is saying remove the 14-day quarantine, and you only really need to isolate if you come in without a PCR test. So do a PCR test and you're straight. It just seems like. I know it has a cost associated with it, but I mean, if you want to avoid all this madness, this is just crazy. I mean, they're fighting back and forth. Nobody knows how it's going to end. Last little bit. In this ruling, in addition, the court orders the Minister of Health, Fernando Ruiz, that's his name, that after being notified of this guardianship sentence, immediately comply with it under penalty of initiating the incident of contempt requested by the actor. So I guess the person that filed it says you need to hold him in contempt. You told him to do it, Judge. This is because the citizen who presented the guardianship, which was ruled in his favor by the court when demanding the PCR test, pointed out that the minister was not complying with what he had been ordered. Judge said, do it. The guy says, hey, Judge, you said do it. Hold him in contempt. So that's the story right there. This just came out a couple hours ago, so I wanted to pass it on as soon as possible. Again, if you're there, it's not that big a deal. It really is. Well, it's not a deal at all if you're already there. But this is for people who probably come in, I would say, about 2 weeks out or even a little bit further. Because who's to say? A week, 2 weeks? Who's to say when this is going to be resolved? Because they're fighting back and forth. Who is right, the government or the judge? But I wanted to throw this out as soon as possible because it takes too long for me to video and then upload and all that. It's just easy to put it on. Is this Friday, December 18th? Yes, this is Friday, December 18th. Boom, boom. Man, you scared me. I thought maybe I had the wrong month. I had November or something. Yeah, December 18th, 16th. It's in El Tiempo, eltiempo.com. Justica, and /Justica. and you'll see it. But anybody have any questions before I jump right out? But I just wanted to give this information to you guys as soon as possible. It is still up in the air. The judge is saying, do it. I mean, they're fooling with a judge. A judge, from what I understand, has all rights, to say, I wrote an order, do it. And if you don't, you'll be held in contempt. So who knows? Ruiz, what's his name? Maybe in the head of Salud, Minister of Health, Fernando Ruiz, may find himself either fined or in jail. But again, I can't see the president fighting this. Allowing this. They've already, gotten used to a little bit of the flow. There's a couple other stories as far as how many people have come in. And I think they said that 68% of the people that have been coming in since the beginning, since September, were Colombian residents. So, and the rest of them were considered tourists. So anyway, people will look at this 2 weeks from now and we'll know. Yeah, and I put the date on all the thumbnails. I put the date on all my thumbnails. So there's people look at the old ones and go, this is, well, yeah, you're looking at last week's news. I don't take them down. I just leave them up. How far in advance is the PCR test required? There's no details, Cleve. There's really no details on this. So judges, no, there's no details on this. So I'm guessing the judge wrote up the details of all of this, and there is some documentation somewhere. But I think what it was is he was leaving it up to the Colombian health minister to work out the details. The Colombian health minister, as far as I'm concerned, can't say, well, we don't know what to do. We're not sure how to do this because, dude, you did it for a month. Whatever you were doing, just do it again. So, but, I really don't see the president allowing this. How they're going to fight it and get around the judge, who knows? The judge may come up missing. Who knows, man? I mean, it is Colombia. So, and things change. So, Kush, in the USA, your insurance should cover your test. Don't come here and look for a place to test. Yeah. And Kush, you just got it, man. Where'd you say you were staying at? Let me know what part of town you're staying on. And I'm telling you, for people who haven't been there yet and just get down there, man, you get used to that weather. The weather, I was just looking at one of my other videos, I think, which I got rolling around back there, one of my other videos, and I was sitting on the couch with 3 days left. Watch that video. I'm going, I got 3 days left, man. Ever want to hold on to something? And that was that feeling I was trying to hold on. But yeah, let me know how it's going. But there's nothing ironed out right now. As far as I can tell, there's no details in this story anyway. And obviously, this just came out. So I guess El Tiempo wanted to get it out as soon as possible. I jumped on their bandwagon and got it out right after that. So there'll be more details to come. I have this stuff popping up. I have reminders. Obviously, I signed up for El Tiempo and El Colombiano and Info Bay, Medellin Guru, which is Medellin Guru's on top of stuff. So believe it'll be in Medellin Guru tomorrow, and he'll have some information on it too. They are pretty tight. Anybody got any questions before I roll? Because I'm going to peace out. I just want to throw this up real quick instead of having to do, again, video and editing and upload, because I got to download and upload it and voice, and I make mistakes and try to cut out my mistakes. Here I'm making mistakes. It is what it is. So anyway, I'm not seeing anything pop up right now. I know this thing is slow, so if you do type something and I don't see it right away. Hopefully I'll see it later. But just to reiterate, before I get out of here, if you're cutting in right now and I'm getting ready to end this, this is the latest update on the Colombian judge's requirement to reinstate the PCR test and 14-day quarantine. He ended up saying, do it. I gave you the PCR test requirement order. Follow my order or you'll be held in contempt. But he amended his first order by saying you don't have to worry about the 14-day quarantine, but you do have to isolate if you land without a PCR test, a negative PCR test within 96 hours. How are they going to do the whole 96 hours again? It's up for grabs. Nobody really knows. But anyway, that's the latest. So anybody have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'll check all the comments later. Thank you guys for checking in. Peace and be safe.